waiting for a couple more people to join in, but we're going to get started. I am Whitney LeGate. I am with Mannington Commercial, but I oversee our professional development committee. I see we've got Erin West on. Hey, Erin. Erin's on our committee and also helps with the power hours. And I also sit on the board for Wi-Fi. So thanks for being with us today. We have an awesome session. I'm so excited. I've never interviewed a first-time author whose book is published today, so we are going to get to that shortly. For the Wild Advantage, Why Your Brain on Nature is Your Boldest Business Move Yet with Jessica DeAngelo, and we are so excited to have her. We're going to take you through a couple Wi-Fi updates, and then we're going to jump into things with Jessica. So for many of you who maybe aren't as familiar with Wi-Fi, we've got a great mission to attract, educate, and empower women. It's been a wonderful networking opportunity, get to meet new friends and people across the flooring industry and old friends that maybe you otherwise wouldn't. It started in 2021 and we continue to grow, and every year we've been growing, and thank you to all of you who are a big part of that. Speaking of, we've got our great Wi-Fi board of directors. I'm honored to be a part of that group of lovely ladies who are awesome at so many different things, but very supportive, that help us keep these programs going. And a special thank you to our corporate friends of Wi-Fi who allow us to do things like scholarship programs and send people to classes and just help Wi-Fi maintain and be present at a lot of different events and industry events that we all get to meet each other. So special thank you to that. As part of our professional development committee, we do a couple things. One is power hours like you're on today. We also have our mentoring program, which is adult to adult match, designed to help you grow professionally and personally. We are currently getting ready to start our next matching program in February of 2026. So if that's something that interests you or you've joined us before, we'd love to have you again. It's an awesome program that we've put together and continues to grow. So we want to have more matches than we've ever had before. So if it's you or maybe someone in your network that you think would benefit from this, we'd love to have you share this. You can find out more at womeninflooring.org and register. I mentioned it, but we've got a great scholarship program. We've given over more than $30,000 away to 16 recipients so far. We want to continue that, again, thanks to our corporate sponsors. We do post-secondary education classes as well as continuing education in various flooring industry events. So if you are interested in that or want to know when the next round, it is opening in January. So tell all your friends, or we'd love for you to register yourself. And then we've got a new event coming up, our Wi-Fi book club. Our kickoff event is on October the 29th. We're all very busy, but we wanted to try to do something different. We don't have a mentor program right now that's not starting until 2026. So we wanted to do a book club. We are doing Presence by Amy Cuddy. Myself and Renee Littleton are going to host, and it's 4 meetings. We'll have a short 30-minute kickoff, and then we'll have 3 one-hour book club meetings. It's really more of a social hour. We'll talk a little bit about the book. It's a great networking opportunity. We'd love for you to register. You can see the dates here. You can register on womeninflooring.org and you'll see it under book club. And we'd love for you to join us. Excuse me. But that's a new thing we're doing and excited about through the 4th quarter this year. Excuse me. A couple of upcoming events. November the 6th, we've got Rise and Thrive, Women Leading at Business and Beyond. That's at the NAFCD. We know we love our acronyms in flooring. Oh, a little bit of reverb there. Thank you. So please join us if you're attending that event in Chicago. It's at the Convention Center. And we've also got a couple save the dates, so jot these down and put them on your calendar. November the 13th, we've got another power hour with behind the scenes path to the C-suite. We've got a great panel of ladies who are going to talk a little bit about the real journey of how they got to a C-suite seat. We've also got a lot of events coming up at Tice. If you're going to Surfaces in Las Vegas, that's January the 26th. We've got a power hour live We also have a mentoring connection reception hosted by Tice. We hope to see you there. And then we're also having a breakfast on the 28th. With that, before I introduce Jess, we're going to do a little preview video of what we're going to be talking about today and her brand new book. I got a sneak peek copy, The Wild Advantage. It's coming. Hold on. Awesome. So we are joined today, Jessica DeAngelo, author, official author. Her book dropped today on Amazon. Congratulations. We're thrilled to have Jessica with us. So Jessica and I worked together over 15 years ago at Mannington. We traveled together. We were both early in our careers in flooring. Jessica is a recovering floor industry member, by the way. And we, kind of kept in I'll call it the LinkedIn touch, and then have recently reconnected through some opportunities professionally and personally that have been awesome and wonderful. And I had the experience to see Jessica personally a couple months ago, recently, and um, we were talking and just the work that she's been doing. I said, will you come on Wi-Fi? I think this would be an amazing, amazing event for the women of Wi-Fi. And so today we are joined by her. Jessica is a TEDx talker, I guess. You've done TEDx talks. She has worked with Fortune 500 companies. I mean, she's worked with Fortune 10 companies like Nike and Uber and Apple. She is the chief hiking officer currently and founder of Hike to Become, which is what we're going to talk about today. She also published her first book. I think it officially went live 12 minutes ago, Jess. An hour and 12 minutes ago.
An hour and 12
The
minutes
Wild
ago.
Advantage. Why your brain on nature is your boldest business move. She has two small humans, as she likes to call them, who remind her daily that her best adventures always start with a good snack, which is also how the LeGate family likes to go on adventures. So with that, I will welcome and turn it over to Jessica to get us started today.
Oh, thanks for that intro, Whitney. It's such a full circle moment for me, and I'm just couldn't be more honored and thrilled to be sharing my book launch day with the women of the floor covering industry, because that's where I spent 15, 16 years of my career. And so I just feel so honored to be here. Let me see if I can get my slides to work. Everybody good? Everyone can see my slides?
You're good.
Perfect. So I just want to share with a little bit of context for everyone on the call. I essentially grew up in the floor covering industry. I graduated, not to date myself, but in the spring of 2008, right before I met Whitney. I graduated with an interior design degree, and no one was hiring because of the financial collapse. However, I did internships while I was in school, which then led me to working my first real job out of college for Mannington Commercial as the district manager in the Philadelphia region. And that's where I got started in my career. loved working for Mannington. And I think a lot of you on the call, I share some context because I have taken a journey, and I think where a lot of you are today in the floor covering industry. After about, I would say 6-7 years, I decided to pursue my master's in business, and I went to work for Interface as a global account director. I was joking with Whitney before this, setting up for this call. I couldn't find any old pictures from Mannington because they're all actual pictures, like before the iPhone. But you can see here, I have some wonderful pictures of just maybe some of you are actually on the call today of my journey when I was a global account director at Interface. I would say I absolutely loved working in the floor covering industry. I think it's such a special place to be. It's an amazing place to grow and learn. And one thing that I just wanted to sort of call out that a lot of people think or maybe misconstrue is they think that I got very burnout in floor covering and then quit. And I just want to address that. The rumor mill right now, that is actually not the case. Here's the real story, and you all are getting it straight from me, is that I ended up having my daughter, Bryn. I became a mom in March of 2020, and it changed my life, of course. And if you all remember what happened back in March of 2020, it was the time of a global pandemic, and I had just become a new mom on the West Coast with a very little support network. And what had happened is that I basically started, I came back from maternity leave, and I decided, oh my gosh, I am just gonna be the mom, be the perfect mom and the perfect wife, and try to also get back into my career and do all the things right. But the reality of what happened was very different. And you were, well, probably a lot of moms here on the call can empathize with this. Instead, I found myself every day on a computer screen, back-to-back Zoom calls, back-to-back Teams calls. And I realized I was like eating lactation cookies at my desk. I wasn't taking good care of myself. I wasn't finding time to work out. There was no time for me in the day. Until one particular day, I was staring at the Zoom screen, kind of waiting for my next call. It wasn't even lunchtime yet, and I had already had 6 Zoom/Teams calls, and I'll never forget this moment. I remember looking out of my office window, and I could see the treetops of Forest Park, and that's the largest urban park in Portland, Oregon. And I had this moment, and it was like I was seeing a long-lost friend for the first time, because I realized that I couldn't remember the last time I had been hiking, which is a love of mine in adult life. And so I did the unthinkable. I canceled that client call in the afternoon. I drove to the trailhead, and I just went for a walk in the woods. And it changed everything. I actually feel emotional even talking about it right now, because as I walked in the woods, I did another unthinkable thing, and I left my cell phone in the car. So I couldn't hear the incessant dings of my Teams chats going off and all of the global WhatsApp threads I had going and all the emails coming in. I couldn't hear my daughter Bryn crying and feeling the insane mom guilt that the nanny would have to get to her because mommy was too busy working. And for the first time in probably months, maybe even years, I returned to myself. I went for a walk in the woods, and I remembered how to breathe again. And that day when I got back to the car, I made up my mind, this is when I was at Interface as a global account director, that I didn't care what it cost me. I was going to hike every day. Even if I had to set myself a calendar invite or a meeting invite to do that, I would take 1 hour out of my day to go for a hike. And what I want to share with you all today is, so there's kind of this rumor going around that I got burnout in floor covering and then left to start my own business. And why that's not true is because in 2020, while working my corporate career, I found time to hike daily, and it changed my approach in the way I work. It changed my approach as a mother. And that following year, I was actually awarded Global Account Manager of the Year for Interface for growing my sales by double-digit numbers. I wasn't working necessarily more hours. I was working smarter. I was starting to focus on the things that truly mattered. I stopped micromanaging my team, and I let go of the things that really weren't my job to do. And I share this all with you because that was the universal first sign, like, hey, maybe you're on to something here. So I didn't leave because I got burnout. I actually found balance in my life through a walk in the woods and started practicing it very much while I was still working at Interface. But as probably many people here on the call can empathize, sometimes the universe needs to send us more than one or like 10 signs for us to pay attention. So I kept hearing this sort of pull, like, oh, I need to be doing something with this clarity I'm finding on the hiking trail. So several years later in 2022, I decided to leave floor covering behind. Whitney jokes I'm recovering from the floor covering industry. And the reason I did it is because I wanted to start my own consulting career. Fast forward, spoiler alert, I found myself in early or late 2023, just maybe a year and a half after I'd started that career, in a similar place that I was back in corporate. So the joke's on me. I thought it was all the pressures of corporate world that was driving me nuts. But the reality is, I realize this about myself. I tend to default to working more when I'm stressed out. And I was doing the same thing in my consulting role. There was a very pivotal moment for me with my two children, who at the time were 3 and 1. We were playing in the loft on a Saturday morning. And instead of being fully present and engaging with them, I was answering client calls on my phone. And my daughter, Bryn, who was 3 at the time, I'll never forget, she looked at me at one point and she said, "Mom, get off your phone." And this was such a huge moment. Listen, we're all on technology. We're all distracted. We're all not present. But for me, it really hit home for me that I wasn't showing up in my own life. So several days later, I did what I normally do, just like that time back in Portland working for Interface. I thought, all right, I'm going to go for a hike. And so I went for a hike on December 23rd, 2023, climbed to the top of a mountain and watched the sun come up. And I realized the reason I was feeling so sort of burnout and uninspired in my consulting career is because I wasn't showing up authentically and I had lost who I was because I had stopped spending that precious time with myself hiking every day. So as I got to the top of the hill, I thought, all right, well, if I could fix just one thing, if I could commit to one thing to change this, what would I do? And I thought, well, January's coming up. There's 31 days in January. What if I challenge myself to hike for 31 days straight in the month of January with no other goal other than to just find myself again? And I got very excited about this idea. And I start hurrying down the mountain to tell my husband, who's my number one cheerleader. And as I was hurrying down the mountain, I slipped and fell in mud and snow. And I really started to question not just my life choices, but what 5 minutes ago had been such an awesome idea. 5 minutes later, covered in mud and snow, I started to think, who am I to be hiking again? I'm not in the best shape of my life. I have a baby at home and a toddler, and I'm building a business. I don't have time to do this. This is ridiculous. But this is the magic of what we're about to share with you all, is because I was in nature, because I was in movement, because I had left my cell phone in the car, because I was alone and there was no other person around to distract me, I reminded myself that maybe, just maybe, all the reasons I thought I shouldn't do this are all the reasons I should. Because most people are just like me. Most people on this call are juggling careers and motherhood and feeling stressed by 18 million different things. And so I thought to myself, maybe I don't have to worry about all 31 days today. Maybe I just need to worry about showing up tomorrow. And that's when a very important idea occurred to me. And the idea was, what if we didn't have to wait to be the people we ultimately want to be, to do the things we want to do in life? What if we just worried about showing up on day one? And that's when I thought, what if I could hike to become who I ultimately want to be? And that was the start of my journey. I never in a million years imagined that I would be talking to you all today or releasing a book, not just about my journey now, but since my own 31-day challenge, I have now inspired hundreds, if not thousands. I have lost count of people to do the Hike to Become challenge. So because Whitney and I had lots of talks before this call, the first thing we want to do, right, Whitney, is we want to open up this challenge to everyone here on the call if they want to go on a journey to try to find that clarity and a little bit of peace for themselves in their day. So I'm going to pull up the screen.
Yeah, so we know some of you, we all have a lot of commitments. We hope you'll stay with us for the full hour. I've got lots of great questions for Jess. She's going to go into the Hike 31 challenge and what it means and why you should do it and what the science is behind it. But we wanted to go ahead and put this up here for everybody because we are busy. If you can't stay till the end, we're going to put it up again. But just if you're interested in doing the challenge, and Jess will take us through it and what it means, and then I'm going to ask her hard questions. I will tell you, I have done it. I did 31 straight days of 30 minutes-ish outside in nature with no tech. And you need a buddy. I recommend a buddy, and we'll get into that. But we just wanted to put this up here so that if you can't stay with us, you've at least got it. So, Jess,
Okay.
you can dive into the specifics and
Okay.
we'll show this again.
So for anyone here on the call, and Maddie, would you mind dropping the link for the book in the chat? So today only on book launch day, anyone can buy a copy of the Wild Advantage ebook for just 99 cents. You can download it now. You do not need a Kindle to do it. You can get it on your phone or computer. If you scan this QR code, it'll take you right to the book or a link, and then you just click buy on Amazon below for 99 cents. You also have the option, if you want to join the challenge, you can text the word hike, H-I-K-E, to number 33777. But there, once you get the book, whether it's the ebook or the paperback, there is a QR code in the beginning of the book too to join the challenge. So either way, Maddie's going to drop in the chat also a direct link to the book. So we just want to make sure everyone has that resource. And I am going to get in. Yes.
This is free. This challenge is free.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
anyone here on this call or even the recording can join. We are opening this up to the women of the floor covering industry because I believe so much in how powerful this is. This isn't about making necessarily big career shifts. It's about just finding time to be powerfully present with yourself, and it can shift everything in your personal and your professional life. So I'm going to go through, Whitney, if you're good, I'm going to start going through the pillars and why this challenge works.
Absolutely.
Okay, so in order to make it very memorable for everyone, I renamed the acronym for HIKE, and I'm going to go through this pretty quickly just so we can get to the questions, because I'm sure you all have a lot of questions and Whitney has some great ones as well. So just remember the acronym for HIKE. H stands for hike or walk. This is really important because movement, especially hiking or walking, creates bilateral stimulation, which means the right and left hemispheres of your brain are talking to each other. I get way more in depth in the book as to the science behind why this works, but this really helps you process negative emotions and find some clarity. So hike or walk. The next letter I, you want to be in nature. I get this question a lot, believe it or not. Jess, what is nature? And at first I was like, that's so silly. Of course everyone knows what nature is. But here's the reality. Nature is anything that's not man-made. So even if you can take a walk around your neighborhood on a tree-lined street, you are in nature. Don't feel like you have to drive to an epic trailhead or scale a mountain. Just find a place where you see more blue sky, ocean waves, a tree-lined street works, patches of grass. Find a park 5 or 10 minutes from your house. Just find a place where you see nature elements. And this is the part that everybody messes up. So everyone always tells me, Jess, I already practice your challenge. I go for my daily walks every day at lunchtime, and I listen to my favorite podcast, or I call a friend, or I take a walking meeting. I'm going to date myself here, but maybe some of you on the call remember this 90s campaign that was like a warning against smoking. It was a bunch of farm animals with cigarettes in their mouth. And the picture speaks 1,000 words, but the tagline was, it looks just as stupid when you do it. I suspect that in 5 or 10 years, we'll have the same tagline for all of us for every time we go out in an epic place in nature and spend so much time taking selfies on our phone that we miss seeing the damn waterfall. And so the K in hike stands for keep technology off. That's everything, including your smartwatch. It will distract you. You want to keep Apple Watches, cell phones, earbuds, all of that off. This is precious time for you to be by yourself. And that leads me to finally E for every day. You are going to practice this every day for at least 30 to 40 minutes for 31 days. I want to be really clear about this. If you skip a day, this is not 75 hard. You do not have to restart. You just show up again the next day. Whitney and I joke, this challenge is all about intention, not perfection. It's about getting out and doing the best you can every day. With that, I'm going to just remind everybody, if they want to join the challenge, you want to text hike to 33777. And I'm going to skip this part and just get to, I love showing this. Whitney, do you want to talk about your moment with the moss?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that I want to address. One is, so Jess, you live in Boise, Idaho.
I do.
Beautiful.
Yes.
You
Yep.
do things like you say words like trailhead, right? And you go
I
off
do.
into the wilderness. And
Yep.
if you read Jess's book, it's some really interesting stories about your life. You've been on some trips. Let me be very clear. I am not a hiker. I don't want to be a hiker. I don't own hiking boots. But anybody can do this. So I had the pleasure, Jess led an executive group of ours through, we were in Vermont. It was gorgeous and beautiful. And I definitely recommend, if you do the 31-day challenge, which I'm going to tell everyone to really try to do, and I'll tell you why, um, on top of why Jess is telling you to do it. But we went out into the woods, and which I can only imagine the responses she gets. So we forest bathed, which is a Japanese thing. She talks a lot about it in her book. But basically, she said, okay, I want you to find a spot, and I want you to just be in nature and be quiet and be alone. We were on a hike. And she says, if you want to, you can do grounding, which if any of you have ever done grounding, you're welcome to raise your hand or give us a little heart. But grounding is when you put your bare feet in nature and kind of connect back down. So I took my shoes off. I found this like tiny little patch of moss. And honestly, so this was 3 months ago, Jess, 4 months
Yeah.
ago.
It was back in July, I think. Yeah.
When I think back, just when have I felt most at rest, most at peace? Um, it was in this moment, in this picture here in the bottom right-hand corner. I was so overwhelmed with all the gratitude I had in my life, just letting myself sort of be with myself. I'm going to say, and I'm sort of embarrassed to say this, I don't know when I spent 20 minutes with myself being really intentional with no phone and no child, no work, and just honestly being with myself. And that was sobering for me.
Mm.
And so, one of the things that I think is really powerful about this challenge is that, and we'll talk a little bit about it, it's hard. It was difficult
Mhm.
for me to be alone with myself for 30 minutes every day. And I'm embarrassed to admit that. Like, we're all self-evolved. We're like, we all have all these things we're doing, right? And I can juggle all this stuff. And it has really made me think. It's made me much more comfortable being with myself. I felt like I would have a lot of anxiety or think about the 100 things that I'm not doing when I spend that 30 minutes. And I'm not going to lie to you, I had those days. And Jess says 30 minutes every day for 31 days. I did that most days. I'm very competitive. I had a buddy. We'll talk a little bit about that. And there are days I wouldn't have shown up if I didn't have to text that person and say, I didn't do it today. I did it because of that some days. And I also had a day that I went out for 15 minutes. I was tired. I literally was almost in tears. And I like barely even made it off my driveway, but I went outside for 15 minutes and just without my phone. And that's what I could do that day. And that's what I did. So this isn't meant to add one more thing to your list, but I would really challenge us in a very, very tech oriented world that we are just constantly bombarded. That's pretty powerful, and I will tell you, you'll end up craving this time. You will look to have your 30 minutes of no phone. We'll talk a little bit about the kid thing and the doing it by yourself. But the premise of this is if you sign up, we'd like for you to start tomorrow. And there are challenges. There are challenges of I'm traveling. It's dark. It's late. Listen, I held my boss out at Vanderbilt campus and said, we're going for a walk. Bring your tennis shoes because we were on a client visit and we walked for 25 minutes. I said, and don't talk to me, but you can walk with me. And that's the best we could do. So,
Wait, can I
you know
just
what?
pause there really quickly, Whitney? I don't think enough people appreciate that you went hiking with your boss, but you
Yes.
practiced the alone because you set the boundary of like, we're not going to talk right now, but I want to feel like, let's just get right into the questions of why maybe you wanted to go with your boss because maybe you didn't feel safe in that area. Because I think that's a top question for women that comes up is when I'm
Yeah.
traveling for work. Jess, you're telling me to be unplugged, but I don't feel safe. Do you want to give us some context? Because I love this story so much.
Yeah, we were driving. We drove early in the morning. We had all day meetings. We were driving back late. We were staying in a hotel, but we were staying far away. It was going to be fairly late when we got there. I'm not wandering around a hotel parking lot by myself. And so I said, I have to get this walk in daylight. And I don't really want to. He was with me. We're in the same car and we're in business suits and everything. So, it brings up a good point though, Jess. I have two small children. I mean, I luckily have a partner, but some people are single moms and I live in Atlanta. I live in a concrete jungle. There's trails, but they're not close to me that I can go to on a Wednesday night. So talk a little bit about how do you do this? I mean, for me, it was my neighborhood. I did a lot in the neighborhood and man, I remember your rule of 50%. You kind of said if there's 50% of more of nature, it counts. And the sky counts. And
Mhm.
I just started paying so much more attention to the trees that were in my neighborhood and the sky. So talk a little bit about safety and things like
Sure.
that for women who want to do this, but I'm not going on a trail by you do it. Good for you. I'm not going on a trail by
Yeah.
myself.
So
So
I'd
talk a little
really,
bit about that.
yeah, thank you, Whitney. I really do want to address this, especially with a call full of women. The number one question I get asked probably after the two questions I always get asked is what is nature and can I bring my dog? But the number one question women typically ask me is, um, how do you feel so safe hiking alone? And so a couple of things I want to say about tips and tricks for safety. Number one is I do encourage you to be tech free during this time. However, if you are walking in an area, not your neighborhood, that you feel unsafe, please have your tech on you. There's a wonderful little thing you can do called airplane mode or do not disturb or both and silence your phone. And you'll read about this in the book, but I talk about how technology and the engineers of technology have hijacked our attention span to make us in constant fight or flight mode every time we get a notification. So I'm just trying to help you shut that down so you can experience the full benefits of the walk. But to Whitney's point, feel free to keep your cell phone on you if you don't feel safe. Just put it in a way that the notifications, it's there, it's within reach, but you won't be tempted to reach for it. So that's one. Number two is I often encourage women, especially if they're traveling or traveling alone, to maybe carry mace with them. Or I carry bear spray, which is a big can of mace whenever I'm on an actual trailhead. Uh, Funny stories about that in the book. But do if it prevents you from getting out and doing it, do what you need to do to keep you safe. Anyone here is welcome to reach out to me. You can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn through DMs. I'm happy to help or support if you have specific questions. And then we also I'll be giving this resource over so to share with you all. On my website, I have something called a trail guide, and it is the top questions I get asked about safety, about wildlife, about whether or not you can hike with your dog. Start small. Like Whitney said, if you have 15 minutes, start with 15 minutes around your block and just try to look up at the sky and see trees. But as far as safety is concerned, do what's going to make you feel comfortable. Let's just make sure that technology has some boundaries around it, that it's not distracting you.
Yeah, and I think for me, there was the boss trip. I also think telling other people in my life, I told my
Yes.
husband, I am
Yep.
doing this. I need your help and support. Made a big difference than me trying to be like, oh, I can't get it in today because he's not home. Like he made an effort to be home for more than, but there's times when I didn't have help. And truthfully, I put my kids on the scooter. We went to the
Yep.
park and they rode around with me. Like I didn't do it by myself all the time. But I definitely, you and I talk a lot about intention. You always say it's intentful about it, do it with intentionality.
Yep. So the this hike to become challenge is designed to do alone, right? Because if you have inputs like your children or your spouse or your work colleague, you're not spending that precious time unlocking the default mode in your brain. And I talk about all of this in the book. So you really want to practice alone. But Whitney and I have talked about this. There will be days when your kids join you, and that is a beautiful thing. And if you're tech free, you're going to have conversations with your kids that you probably otherwise would not have had. So do your best, do a majority of it alone. But man, there are days where my daughter Bryn wakes up at 6:30 in the morning, and that's normally when I go for my morning walks. She comes with me, and we have the most beautiful conversations ever, and it's precious moments for us to talk. So again, back to intentionality and just showing up. And there'll be days when you can do it alone and have really wonderful, great, bold business ideas and solve problems. And then there'll be days when you'll be joined by someone that was unexpected and it'll turn out just as beautiful but different.
Yeah, awesome. So that's the challenge. We'll talk a little bit more about it. We're also going to take plenty of questions from the group. Jess, you want to jump into some?
Yeah,
I have some questions about the book and such.
for sure.
I do want to talk about, we have a bit of an elephant in the room. We're on a Zoom call. This is a getting off of tech, right?
Mhm.
And when you and I first did it, you were like, "Ooh, Whitney, I don't know if I can do it." Because you do this typically as a hike and like kind of send people off on their own, right?
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about that and maybe how I persuaded you
Yeah.
to
So
do it anyway.
Whitney's is fabulous at sales. Um, so what has been a challenge for me, and you'll read about it in the book, is I'm advocating so much for people to be off tech that to do a lot of presentations on Zoom or Teams feels a little bit counterintuitive for the brand or how I show up. But Whitney was very lovely to remind me that no matter how I show up, it has the same impact. And the goal here is that I'm inspiring all of you after this call later today to maybe find time to go outside, put that cell phone on do not disturb, and go for a walk. So I'm learning to meet people where they're at and hopefully inspire them along the way. And I think the book is a big part of that.
So speaking of, first, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
launching your book today.
Thank you.
Again, it's The Wild Advantage, Why Your Brain on Nature is Your Boldest Business Move. I had the pleasure of reading it. Jessica sent me a early copy. I feel so special. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And, you know, I thought it would be just kind of interesting, even if people don't get the book, you can still do the challenge. Obviously, I think it helps you. It takes you through the science because there's a lot around this. You say in the book, the best guidance comes not from giving specific direction, but from creating the conditions where clarity can unfold and your brain can unlock wild ideas. And that's what this book is here to help people do. And that's what this challenge is here to help people do. And, you know, in our conversations, it's been interesting because this isn't like a coaching thing or like, if you do this, it's really about letting people find themselves, getting back to themselves. You asked some hard questions in this book. And honestly, you were very vulnerable. I mean, this is a biography of sorts in this book. Tell me a little bit about the writing experience. How was this to write a book, your first one?
Yeah, so it's terrifying, to be honest. And there was a big shift for me. So I started writing the book in June of 2024. So it's been almost an 18-month journey of writing this book. And the first few months, I was like just sort of writing down my stories or what had happened to me, you know, through working in floor covering and how hiking had helped me manage my workload to being a consultant. And I got pretty fried, actually, Whitney, writing just about me. And I kind of lost all my inspiration. I hit a big wall. And it took me several months to untangle that, where I just had to like step away from it all. And a good friend reminded me that I shouldn't worry too much about writing a book or worry too much about, I guess, like the future audience. I should write a book that I would want to read. And what she meant by that is show up authentically, show up and write the book that you would want to read, and don't worry about the rest. And around the same time, Whitney, I also realized I was doing a lot of hike to become experiences with executive teams. I was doing a lot of one-on-one VIP days on the trail. And I was really kind of almost like an observer to see that people were unlocking these bold, brilliant, disruptive business ideas on the trail. People were having these epiphanies, these moments of clarity. People were going, "Oh my gosh, wow, I didn't see that coming around mile marker 2 or 3 with me. So when I started to embrace the idea that this book is not a business book, it's not a self-help book, it's an adventure book, everything shifted and changed. And then I started interviewing clients about their experience, and it reinvigorated me. So it's like the book kind of took on a life of its own midway through, and I decided to let go of control, which as a type A woman, that is very hard for me to do. But the book had a mind of its own, and I just decided to be, I guess, the person to help bring it to life. And I think what changed the book from what it was to what it finally became is because so many other people contributed their stories and agreed to be interviewed and also be very vulnerable about their experiences on the trail with me. And that made it a much better book. So I had to let go of control. Shocker, the universe keeps teaching me this, to let the book come to life in the way it was meant to. I don't know if that answers the question, but
Yeah, absolutely. That's
yeah.
great. I mean, it's a great storytelling. You hear from a lot of people. We didn't talk a ton about the science
Mhm.
here, and we'll keep going through questions, but essentially your kind of methodology is there are these things that happen in your brain when you're in nature and you're away from technology and you're alone and you kind of let yourself want
Mhm.
your mind wander, if you will. You reference, like, it's basically a long shower thought, which a lot of
Yeah.
us get great ideas because think about it. When else in your life are you not interrupted by technology and other things? Um, but you talk a lot about, leaders and some ideas. Steve Jobs was
Yep.
known for walking. You mentioned Phil Knight in your book and some of his ideas. Um, you talk about reconnecting with nature and our authentic selves. How would you kind of apply this to women in business and leadership?
So, great question. I think the reality, women especially, and I'm just speaking from my own experience, but women especially, we have a much greater mental load than men. I'm just going to say it because typically we're managing our households. We're not just managing our teams and our workload and all the things, but the mental load we carry for managing our households and the grocery lists and the kids' doctor's appointments. And did we order the back to school supplies? I'm just speaking for myself. Um, is so much greater. I once read an article, I think it was in Forbes, that a woman who runs a typical household expands the same brain power as a Fortune 500 CEO.
Wow.
Whoa. So I think that my book showcases with all the science that because we're under so much mental strain constantly, there is an area in our brain that is called default mode, that all creative thought sort of lives. And the challenge is that our attention is constantly hijacked by technology pinging us, by responsibilities, by people talking at us. If you live in my household, everyone likes to talk at me at once. Um, so because of that, I cannot access the default mode in my brain. And that is where your best problem solving skills lie. That's where your creative ideas lie. That's where basically your genius lives, is in default mode. But in order to be in default mode, you have to stop all other inputs. And so this challenge is designed to force you into default mode. And that 30 to 40-minute mark is so important, is because once you're practicing this, that's when it kicks on. Around the 30-minute mark is when your brain's cognitive function starts changing. And so while everybody often tells me, Jess, I'm too busy to do your challenge, I can't fit it in my day, my counterback is always, if you give me 30 to 40 minutes, I promise you that I can give you 2 hours back in your day. Here's why. You're going to get back to the office post hike and you're going to have so much clarity on, I have 18 things on my to-do list and most of it doesn't matter. I only need to do 3 and do them well. That clarity exists getting yourself out in nature, unplugged, and tapping into your default mode. And the default mode will tell you most of what you're doing is busy work and micromanaging other people and kind of doing things that maybe aren't, my friend Monica Rothergy would say, aren't yours to do. Once you step away from that, you find a lot of clarity on the 3 things that are yours to do. And I've practiced it. I've had lots of clients practice it, and everyone reports back the same. If they do this, they are way more productive, creative, and focused. They're working essentially less hours, but way better and smarter.
We are all looking for better and smarter. So a couple things I just thought I would highlight for the
Yep.
group in the book. To me, anyone who can quote a Nobel Peace Prize recipient Anne Olaf from Frozen in the same paragraph of a book, it's going to get 5 stars from me on Amazon. That's covering the whole gamut. I also, she has a section called, and I won't spoiler alert, it's called $2,000 pair of underwear. For those of you who don't know Jessica, she has quite a sense of humor. She's being very well behaved today.
I am.
But I hope she's doing the audiobook so we can get her full, like, witty little quips when she says things like, put your damn phone down. So I hope you're doing the audiobook, Jess.
I am.
There's a couple things that stood out. I went through the book. I had my trusty little highlighter. I stole it from my children and like highlighted all these great things that I thought, what I love about it is it's a lot of common sense, but you have to get to all 4 parts. You talk in the book, if you skip one of them, like if you do the walk, but you do it with your phone, you negate it. It has to be all 4 to get this benefit of this default mode, like you reference. You have a quote. I'm going to quote you. We aren't burnt out. We are lighting ourselves on fire, which was a favorite of mine. And, you said the irony is that we've created a world where we're always available, yet rarely present. And I think that's really what I took the most from the book is, it's not about getting your steps. It's 30 minutes outside, like, oh, be in nature. That's great. Yes, we all need to unplug, like all the things, but it's really about being present in your life. I mean, with your kids, I'll tell you, with your family, with your parents, with your, friends, with your colleagues. I'll share one of the things that impacted me the most after I've done the challenge, and I'm doing it again with all of you, by the way, starting tomorrow, day 1. Is how much it made me realize how much my kids are on tech or on a screen, or how much they are not practicing being alone with themselves. They're 6 and 8. But it was startling. It is startling. I think, let's put a question out to the group. So there's an average American checks their phone how many times a day? How many times a day do you think the average American checks their phone? Can put it in the chat. Give us a best guess. There you go, Allison. Thank you. 125, 150, 200, 360. Sam's closest. 344 times a day on average, we check our phone. That's insane, Jessica.
It is. And it's I hope that my book does a good job making you feel less guilty about it, because
it was very not guilt inducing. Thank you.
Okay, good. Well, I feel guilty. I feel guilty being on my phone and being distracted from my kids. However, I share science in the book about why it's designed to hijack our evolutionary brains. And so you're not at fault. That's why you have to create healthy boundaries with your tech, because it's literally designed to get you to check it hundreds of times a day.
It's crazy. Is there a particular moment in your book or a story that you hope resonates the most with people or in this challenge?
I think I have a really special place in my heart for Rick Rice. And Rick is featured in chapter 4 of the book for Hike or Walk. The very first hike to become experience I ever did was with the Legacy Group out of Seattle, which is a flooring and furniture dealer. And I won't spoil it. There's a great story in the book, but I think sometimes I had no anticipation of the impact the hike to become challenged, that particular hike, would have on Rick. But to sort of speed it up a little bit, I did this hike with 42 people. Some people were not really well equipped, or maybe the hike was a little more challenging than we thought for a few individuals, and Rick was one of them. And I knew, because I had known the group really well, I felt like Rick was probably going to have strong words with me the next morning when I showed up to the offices. I thought he was going to curse me out, I'll be totally honest. And I share that with love. And instead, he kind of waves his finger in my face. And I said, "Hey, Rick, I'm so sorry. I know that I didn't mean to embarrass you yesterday. Like, the hike was super challenging." And he was like, "Yesterday, I was really pissed at you." But then I went home and I thought about it and I thought, I'm not pissed at you. I'm pissed at me. I thought I was in way better shape than I actually am. And what you showed me yesterday is that I want to be around for my grandchildren. And I won't spoil the other part of the book, but when I came back to interview Rick a year later, his story's phenomenal. It's in the book. I never anticipated this challenge, and the experiences would be impacting people in the way that it is. And so I'm just really grateful for the people that have embraced it and the changes it's made in their life, not even just professionally, but personally. So you'll have to read more about Rick's story in the book.
Yeah, it's a good one. I have lots more questions for you, but I'm gonna ask one, and then we're gonna open it up for some quick questions from the group. And
Great.
so for those who join the challenge, and I would really encourage everyone to do this for yourself. There's never a good time. There's never next week is better than this week. I can assure you. And it's amazing how you shift your brain to like, how do I figure out how to do this today instead of saying I can't do this today or whatever it may be. But for those joining the challenge, what's some advice you would give to them about approaching it? Not just physical. This isn't really meant to be like your workout. It can be, right? But it's not
Mhm.
meant to be get your steps in kind of a thing. But as a mindset and reflection practice for this.
I think my biggest piece of advice is so I guess my biggest piece of advice is don't worry about 31 days. That feels daunting and scary. Worry about today or tomorrow if you're all starting tomorrow. It's what I did the first time I practiced the challenge is I chose not to worry about 31 days. That felt daunting and scary and like I couldn't accomplish it. Worry about showing up tomorrow, and the next day will take care of itself, just day by day, really. And the other big piece of advice I would have, and we'll probably get into this next, Whitney, is find a hiking buddy. Find someone who is texting you daily and holding you accountable, someone that you can also hold accountable on your own, and show up for that other person. It matters. And the people that have practiced, like Whitney mentioned, with a hiking buddy are typically way more successful at finishing the challenge than someone who tries to attempt it alone.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that for people who register. We'll send out an email and kind of get a group together and then recommend that you get a partner. It certainly can be someone outside the program, but we'd love to have it with someone. That doesn't mean a hiking buddy, like you go hiking together. My
Right.
person lived across the country, but we literally would text each other a check mark, like, or tough one today, or whatever, just a quick like check-in. So I want to open it up to anybody on the call. If you have a question for Jess or you want to put something, we love to hear it in the chat. We've got a few more minutes here. Hopefully everyone that's interested, again, can sign up. We've posted it, how to sign up the 31-day challenge. You can text HIKE to 33777. Again, it's free. I do recommend getting the book. It's 99 cents. Can't beat that. I've got $1 Amazon credit, so it's free.
Oh,
And that's for the next 24 hours.
did we want to share too, Whitney, that I am sponsoring 3 author-signed
Yes.
paperback copies of the book.
Oh,
So
yes.
for the first 3 people that sign up for the that buy the ebook and sign up for the challenge, I'll be shipping you an author-signed copy of the book. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Very good. So, and there's more to this. I don't see any questions yet, but feel free to put some in the chat if they come to you. So a couple things, we also talked about, you shared with me, the first week is kind of the hardest. It's learning to be with yourself. I will tell you a little trick that I used personally, because when I did this challenge with Jess, I told her, I don't know if this is the worst or the best thing, but it was during a really, really challenging time for me personally, of just a lot of going on at work, a lot going on at home. And I didn't want to spend 30 minutes thinking about all that. Like, I just felt like it would overwhelm me. So, at another thing that I learned, I thought of a moment of joy, a memory that made me happy. And that's how I started my walks, is thinking of a memory that made me really happy. And then I just let my brain kind of wander. And I'll tell you, it was freeing. It was a really nice time. And then your brain kind of goes, and there was never a point that I felt overwhelmed with, oh, here's 100 things that I should have been doing. I really was able to get into that time with myself. So, but I do encourage, you say push through that, Jess, right? The first week can kind of be the toughest. So Allison Mullins, who is part of our committee as well, and also an author, she says, just tell the audience how important Amazon reviews are for your first book and let us know how we can support you.
Oh, thank you, Allison, so much. Yes, so today is launch day, which is really important. The way Amazon recognizes a book is you kind of try to have a concerted effort all at one time. It's goofy. Book launches are super weird. But anyone who buys the ebook or the paperback and enjoys it, Whitney, I am holding you to. Please leave me an Amazon review
I've already
that says
started it. I've already started
anyone
it.
who can quote Olaf and a Nobel Prize winner and underwear or whatever gets 5 stars from me. Thank you, Allison. That's a great reminder. Please leave me an Amazon review. It just helps more people find the book. And I would just ask for your honest take on the book. That really helps me spread it to more people. Also, even if you don't like ebooks, if you can buy an ebook today, it's only 99 cents. That's like less than a trail snack. It just helps the Amazon algorithm notice that there's a spike in activity with the book. And like we said, we're going to sponsor 3 paperback copies to come out to the first 3 people that buy it and sign up. But your love and support means the world to me. I will leave it with this. For me, this book is not about selling books. It's not about bestseller status. It's about inspiring a movement. I would see this book as a success if we get more companies to acknowledge that every employee, whether you work remotely or in an office, deserves one innovation meeting a day by themselves, unplugged in nature. I want that to be recognized just like an employee benefit or like a societal rule of having lunch that's not at your desk.
Yeah.
I will see this book as a success if I can get that movement started, and I'm hoping you all help me do that.
I think it's awesome. It's certainly something I've thought a lot about with my teams as well. So thank you, Jess. Really quick, we've got one more question and we'll wrap up for the day. Thanks for everybody for staying with us. After the challenge, were there any urges to return back to the tech time that you lost?
And actually, feel free to clarify. I think what you mean is like after the challenge, do you kind of slide back into your old ways, and how do you like maintain that sanity? Feel free to, if I'm understanding it correctly. What I would say is that, okay, gotcha, perfect. Yes and no. So the first thing is I noticed most people that finish the challenge, and I followed up with people months to a year after the challenge, most people that finish it continue to hike or walk at least 3 to 4 times a week and still practice to this day. Like I'm talking senior executives who manage a global team still practice. So I'm not telling you have to hike every day, but post challenge, the reason it's 31 days is it takes about 18 to 30 days to establish a habit, and not to let the cat out of the bag, but I'm hoping this becomes part of your life. The other thing I will share with you is we set some really strong tech boundaries in my house that are really helpful. Sundays, for a period of about 6 to 8 hours, my husband and I leave our cell phones off and in the garage. We are way more relaxed on Sundays. You can't reach us if you try. We go to the farm with the family and all the things. So find your own tech rules that work for your family, and then just hold your family accountable to practicing them together.
Well, Jess, I want to thank you for spending a very valuable hour with us today. Congratulations on your first book, and thank you for being on with us. It was really interesting, and we hope we have lots of people taking us our own little Wi-Fi group in the Hike 31 Challenge. So we'll follow up with any of you who sign up. Don't think about it, just do it. I promise you can do it. You can figure it out. We'd love to hear your feedback on today's session or any other Power Hour sessions that you'd like to hear. We'd also love for you to become a friend of Wi-Fi. We have lots of great things that we're supporting. And Jess, thank you again. Everyone, spoiler alert, all my teams will be getting your book, and many of you will be getting it for Christmas. So thank you again. And it was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Whitney. It's an honor to be back with the floor covering industry.
We hope to have you for book 2.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.